Welcome to the Vine Resources Podcast Show with your host, David Lawrence.
Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources Podcast Show, where today I'm delighted to have with us Xaver Lehmann. Xavier is the co-CEO. Am I right in saying that? Co-CEO.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Co-CEO and founder, one of the founders of the company, e-bot7. Really interesting business, growing massively in this market within AI, customer service. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on the show.
And I bet I said that wrong as well, because it's you said people call you Xavier. How do you prefer it?
So it doesn't really matter, right? So Xaver would be very traditional, right? Very like German,
Yep.
German based. But I mean, people come from all over the world, and I guess Xavier would be more international. So I mean, both is fine for me.
You're easy. It's great. Well, as I said, as you just alluded to, you're on the phone chatting to us from beautiful Bavaria down in the southern German Alps in Munich. Been many times. Why don't you share with our listeners just a little bit about the company, e-bot7? Tell us what you've been building since 2016. Amazing business.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm one of the founders, as you said. Founded the company in 2016 with one of my oldest friends, actually. So we've known each other for now like 18, 19 years. So it's been quite a ride. And in 2016, we were both studying in the Netherlands, actually. So I was pursuing my Masters of Finance. And this opportunity came up with him. And we just pulled the trigger, right? We just founded the company. And we've grown to now around 75, 80 people in different regions. So most of the people are based in Munich in our headquarters, but we also have offices now in London and Paris. We're opening an office in Amsterdam too. So yeah, it's a hell of a ride, and very happy to be on the journey. Perhaps, I mean, what we do as a company, I guess that's also interesting for you.
For sure. Let's talk about that.
I mean, essentially what we do is we kind of enable companies to kind of provide much more automation in customer service, right? So it's on the one hand automation. So in order to be able to kind of automate a lot of requests and processes for your customers, but it's also, if it's not automated yet, or if it cannot be automated yet, we provide support agents with accurate response suggestions so that they can actually work faster and in a smarter way, I would say. So it's kind of automating stuff. So let's take a simple example. So let's say you have a question about your contract at AT&T or Telecom, for example. Now you've got different options, right? You can call them, being stuck in a hotline, waiting minutes, being perhaps redirected to the wrong person. I mean, that happens quite often, right? Or you could send an email and wait days for reply. But I guess the best option is just to send a question, get immediate responses. And that's what we've been doing, right? So with the biggest corporates like BMW, Deutsche Bahn, and more like these guys, we provide them with a kind of an automated live chat, which only automates if it's certain enough. And if it's not, then we kind of minimum help agents to work faster. So this is kind of in a nutshell what we do.
Fantastic. And look, talk us through, those early days. I mean, you've obviously, just for our listeners' benefit, you've obviously had a big Series A raise last year. Congratulations, a lot of money into the business. I think just over what, 5 million euros, 5 point something million.
Exactly.
Now, to get to that point, you've done an awful lot of work and the graph that you guys have put in. So I'd love to talk a little bit about those early days. It wasn't that long ago, 2016. Tell us what that first year was like. What were you putting together, and how did it come off to that first win, that successful pilot or project that you managed to deliver for a customer? Talk me through those challenges.
Yeah, definitely, pleasure. I mean, at that time, right, we were both studying. So Fabian and I were both studying at university. So we had a lot of stuff to do on the side, right? I had my master thesis. I had exams to write. So, but at some point, I mean, we've always been quite entrepreneurial. So Fabian had been founding companies before. I was born and raised in a family which was quite entrepreneurial, I would say, too. So my brother has been working in Silicon Valley for the last 10 years. My mother and my father had been always quite self-employed. So I was kind of drawn into that kind of direction, even though I studied finance. So actually the way was to go into investment banking to this section or to this area, which is quite different from founding a startup, right? But anyways, we founded a company, and at that time, I mean, Fabian and I, we're both commercially driven, kind of, right? So I'm more like the finance, pricing, numbers guy, and Fabian is more like the sales and marketing guy. But still, we founded a company, a technology company, which kind of develops and integrates artificial intelligence, right? And at that point of time, I mean, everyone said we were crazy, right? I mean, how can you build up a technology company without kind of any knowledge of code, any knowledge of software, any knowledge of AI in general, right? So, I mean, that was something interesting for us and something really motivating and to show them that we can do it, right? And so what we did, in in 2016, the market was quite young for these kind of technologies, right? And what we thought is we need to build the best technology and we need to solve customer problems. So what we did is we founded a consulting company, which was at that time called Consulting. And we did just monthly workshops in different cities all around. And through these workshops, we spoke to many customers and we're doing presentations and workshops and group discussions. And through these discussions, we actually kind of got the knowledge for what we have to build, right? And for us, I mean, on the one hand, we got money for this, right? Because they attended the workshop. On the other hand, and this was much more valuable for us, was getting the knowledge, getting the market knowledge, getting the pain points also from the customer perspective. And actually, at the end, to know what we have to build. So in the background, we were building e-bot7. We were building the technology up. And for this purpose, we actually brought on Max Guerra on board, which is our CTO and also co-founder. We brought him in a bit later, I would say, because we were figuring out what we have to build, right? And then we came together. Max built the technology. We were really commercially driven. The first meeting was at O2 Germany, which has been the biggest and first customer of ours. And at that time, I mean, we were quite early invited to an accelerator program of Telefonica, and I know that the time because I think like 1 week afterwards I had a big exam to write, and we just had to prepare for this presentation for the accelerator, right? So they had to decide if we're gonna get a bit of cash and a bit of office space that we can actually build the company up. So once we got there, it was actually based in Munich. There were like 30 investors sitting in front of us and asking us questions, right? I mean, we're both students. We were like 23 and 24, and we just sold them the vision of like the biggest company we can build, right? A billion company. And they were telling us, guys, I mean, come on, you don't have any technology. You're at university still, right? Like there's no way like you can do it. But somehow we convinced the right people at that accelerator, so they decided to invest, and that was kind of a huge milestone for us because we were able to get the first developers on board and have an office directly in the city center of Munich, and so this was kind of the beginnings of the company, I would say.
I love that story, and it's great to hear that the challenges of the pitch. But you placed yourself in there. You got yourself in there. Someone had to make the calls to make that happen. Tell us how the challenges around the technology stack. I mean, there wasn't something off the shelf you could build, you could buy, I should say. So you built it. How did that go about, and what was the challenges in making that happen?
Very good question, because I mean, at that time, we didn't have any knowledge of technology, right? So Fabian and I, and so we needed to find someone who can build up a technology for us. But the problem was we didn't know who, right? Deciding on who is the best software engineer for us is quite hard if you don't know anything about software. So, I mean, at that time we sent out thousands of messages to software engineers around Munich, and one guy, and that was surprisingly Max. He like instantly messaged us and said, "Hey, I'm around the corner. I can just pass by and we get to know each other, right?"
Brilliant.
And somehow like it immediately matched, right? Sometimes you have just you meet someone and then you instantly know there's some kind of connection, right? And this happened with Max, and surprisingly or luckily actually, Max has been building AI technologies for the last 16, 17 years, even though at that point, I mean, 16 years ago, nobody like really knew anything about technology, right? Or about kind of AI technology, I would say. So we were lucky enough to get him on board. He has built the technology from scratch, actually. Even though I think we have really good algorithms when it comes to customer service. So that's kind of the really focus area where we are in. Nowadays, it's more kind of the I would say the market has changed a bit. So at that point in 2016, 17, it was all about building the best NLP on the market, right? Natural language processing, the algorithms behind the whole thing. But now it's more the case. It kind of got to a point where it's kind of a commodity. So the AI algorithms, even if it's from Google, from Microsoft, from any other bigger provider or smaller provider who is specialized in some areas, honestly, you can almost take any algorithm, because it's on the one hand very hard to compare, and on the other hand, it just needs to work, right? And from a customer perspective, it's all about making it work, making it possible to kind of understand requests. And so now in the product which we have the flexibility that we can use our own algorithms, but we can also plug in any other kind of IBM Watson or any other kind of technology, which is cool.
I'm sure there's, and again, you've probably seen this over the last 4 or 5 years, customers you've gone into say, well, we can build this ourselves. We're going to do this ourselves. We're going to build it ourselves. What happens often in those organizations that do that, and where do you really come in and add value to those companies?
It's the companies out there who want to build themselves, right? We see that often in banking, because they have such old systems, such old backend systems, that it's very hard to connect outside providers and third parties, right? And for these guys, it might be even the best option to build it themselves, right? Because they have their own developers, they have their own data scientists. But in general, I would say most of the companies out there, they don't have these resources. They don't have IT background people, and like not even data scientists, right? I mean, data scientists have been on the market for a few years now, and they are also quite expensive, right? So for these guys, a plug and play solution which you can integrate instantly and which can go live within a few days is, I think, the optimal solution. But of course, there are companies like AXA or Allianz or like really big companies, really corporates, who might take kind of a framework and then they build their own technologies around it.
Tell us a little bit about what a typical day in the business is looking like for you right now.
That's funny, because I think almost every day as a founder looks different. So I mean, for me personally, I wake up at 6. I do my meditation for half an hour. I do a big breakfast every morning for myself, and then I do sports for an hour, and then I'm in the office at 8:30. And then what I do typically, I read it in a book which I read about half a year ago. It's called The One Thing, and it's about really focusing on the things that matter most, right? What I've been asking myself every day in the morning at 8:30 is, what can I do today? Kind of that everything else is kind of unnecessary, or everything else is kind of easy then, right? And if you ask this question every day, and you can even ask it for the next couple of weeks, right? So what should I do now? What should I do today in order for for me to reach my goals in a couple of weeks, in a couple of years, in 5 years, right? And this is important because it focuses on the thing that you really should do, because there's a lot of noise in the business, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of, tasks and a lot of to-do lists. And to-do list, right? You've got a bunch of stuff on there, but it actually, like, you have to focus on the 1 or 2 things that matter the most. And most of the people, at least that I see, are not doing it, right? They are just kind of crossing out some to-dos, but at the end of the day, it was nothing really that matters, right? Or that mattered. So, I mean, for me, so this is what I ask every day, kind of, and I most of the times, honestly, it comes back to hiring, right? So for me, what's the most important thing? It is hiring, right? It is making myself independent, kind of the company, that the company runs itself without me interacting on a daily basis, and me kind of engaging with customers, with investors on a high frequency. So for me, the business goes very well if I don't have to be involved, right? Of course, I'm always involved, but I think at some point you need to hire the best people in the department, that they can take your job and do it perhaps a little better than yourself.
Now, we didn't talk about the name, so I just want to ask you, how did what does the name mean, or how did it come about?
So many people that ask this question expect a funny story or something, right? But at that time in 2016, Fabian and I, we are really hands-on. And I mean, when we started the company, we thought about a name. We looked online. We kind of thought, because at that time we wanted to do something in e-commerce, so minus bot because of chatbots. And then the only available domain was e-bot7, actually. So it was actually kind of, it was just a domain that was free. And so we took it and said, come on, it's not about the name, it's about the business, it's about execution. Because there's some startups, honestly, that care about names for a couple of weeks, couple of months. And honestly, that's not the most important thing. And I think it's special, kind of, right? So nobody's called e-bot7.
Oh, it's great. It's great. And look, let's take us back to January, February time, where everyone was running around, having a good time around the world generally. And then obviously COVID hit. How did that impact the business? Were you set up for working from home? Did people move? I know we've moved on a bit since those early days, but how did it impact the business, and how did it impact the team and the way of working?
So I need to say, I mean, before Corona, we were quite flexible when it came to home office policy, right? So for us as a team, I think it did have an impact, definitely. It did have a positive impact, I think, for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I would say, because, when you're at a very high stress level, as I was, for example, before, because I was traveling all the time, I was in trains and airplanes almost 3-4 days a week. And at some point, once Corona hit, you are stuck at home, right? Isolated from like all your friends, all your colleagues. And then you think about kind of how stressed you were before, right? So you calm down and think, oh man, like a few weeks ago, I was at that stress level, and I only notice it now, right? And so for me personally, I mean, it has been quite positive, because I sometimes you have to look left and right, and this was a time where you could really look left and right, and where you could really think about how everything is set up, how everything is structured, how you should tackle the next couple of months and years. So for me, the best decisions that we have done in the last years were in that Corona time, I would say. And in terms of business impact, I would say, of course, at first negative. So we had some deals that should have gone online in February, in March, and April. But then they postponed it, they delayed it. They said, hey, we don't have resources now. So we had to kind of postpone a bit. But it was all good for us because we could focus on the things that mattered most for us, and on processes, and on building out structures for scaling up further. But the positive thing about the business was that I think Corona created kind of this urge for companies to innovate, to kind of also challenge the status quo, because in that time many companies and many customers of ours needed to lay off a lot of people. There was a lot of short-term work, so they had to think of ways on how to cope with these situations, even though they don't have a big team, right? So, and this is exactly where our technology comes in, because we can handle these peak times. We can handle if you don't have that massive team handling all the requests, handling all traffic for you, right? So for us, I think in the short term it was a bit negative, but now in the mid-long term, it's only positive, I think. And we see it now in July, August, September had been the best month in history. So despite all the negative things, right, that it has created for the world, and like in terms of health and everything, right? If I speak only about business, it had been quite positive for us, I would say.
Now, there's a few telltale signs on your company website and your branding that tells me that you're quite an unusual Bavarian company. And what I mean by that is the language. So you know, in Berlin, a lot of these tech companies now is English first. But I'm not sure, are you German first? Are you English first, or what's going on there? Because that's not traditional Bavarian language.
That's actually true. I think Bavarian language nobody would understand. So I think the typical German language is fine. I mean, in general, you know, we've got a very international team.
Yep.
I think out of these 75, 80 people, we've got 25 different nationalities. So we've got people from all over the world, and it's English first, right?
That's what I thought.
No way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously the things are changing, and you know, probably COVID has also opened up people's minds, not only to, you know, to the language there, but also to remote workers. Do you see that being a trend in Germany, where that companies will be rethinking their strategy on the people within their organization?
I think definitely. I mean, first Corona. I mean, for us, I can only speak for us, right? And the first 6 to 8 weeks were quite productive, I would say. So people were sitting at home. We had a lot of conferences, web conferences, of course, and Slack and WhatsApp and everything, right? So technology enables you to be connected. But on the other hand, after 8 weeks, I somehow had the feeling that there was kind of not a disconnection, but something that I can't really describe, but I had the feeling that the team bonding, kind of all this, the culture and all this thing which you build up in the first years, was kind of not growing anymore, right? So it was kind of at a very good level, but I think meeting people in person is very, very important. And so what the future will look like, definitely remote working is a much preferred option now than before. I think especially in Germany. I mean, home office had been here, right? But it was not for most of the big corporates. There was not a lot of policies there. So
No.
I think these guys are shifting towards more remote working. I guess it's also a shift in, do we really need this big office, or can we actually handle something smaller and have a kind of flexible home office policy? I think so in the medium term, so the next 6 months, it will still be very, very flexible. Everything is very remotely. We still go to the office. So if you want to go to the office here in Munich, you can go, because we don't have that high rates of infections here. But in the long term, I think it kind of balances out. So I think there's going to be a high probability that remote working will be kind of the way forward, and kind of most of the companies will prefer it, and most employees will prefer it. But there will also be a part of really office face to face, because that's very important for some things, and we're going to handle it exactly that way.
Fantastic. What you've mentioned a little bit earlier your entrepreneurial family background there, but is there a story that you can share from your childhood, that may have influenced your work ethic today?
Definitely, there's a few. I think the one that comes to my mind first is when I was 6-7 years old, my teachers always said, hey, you're not good at mathematics and you can't deal with numbers. And I kind of took it personally. I thought, I'm really bad at mathematics, right? And it burns in your head. It burns through your head. And at some point, eventually, my mother brought me to an institute, and I was actually diagnosed with mathematical dyslexia. So, and at that point I thought, I mean, these guys have been telling me how bad I was, but it's actually kind of an illness, right? There's nothing I can do about. So I struggled a bit at that time. I mean, I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And then I went to high school. I did a lot of work. I did a lot of mathematics studies. My mother had been sitting with me together and handling all the tasks and all the questions together. So at some point I was very good. And at university, I mean, I was leading statistics and mathematics tutorials. And so for me, what I learned through this is no matter what people say to you, no matter how people judge you, you can you can achieve everything, right? Even though you are perhaps impaired in a way, or perhaps you're not the best in a specific field, or you don't have the knowledge in a specific area, you can, through practice, through a lot of hard work, you can do it, right? And you can be the best in your field at some point.
If you were giving someone some advice, some insights into difficult challenges going through big business change, tremendous business change, what are the lessons that you could share from your experience?
I guess trust your gut, right? It sounds stupid, but for me, it has been quite successful, quite important for me. And one example I can give you, like after my bachelor's, I decided to, I had the decision to which university I want to go to, right, for my master's. There were top universities based in Europe, right, where I could have gone to. But I decided to go to Maastricht, which is also a very good university, but it's not like the top, right? But I still went there. Why? Because I was in Maastricht. I traveled there because I wanted to see the city, and it just blew my mind, right? I had such a good gut feeling in that city, in that university, that I knew I had to go there. And this, I mean, it turns out this was the best decision I could take, right? Because Fabian spontaneously also decided to go there, and then we met again and we founded a company. So if I had not decided to go there, if I had not trusted my gut feeling, I would have never, I think, founded that company in the first place.
Exciting. Talking about excitement, what do you see the next few years looking like, and what's really exciting to you at the moment?
A lot of things. I mean, our business is growing quite quickly. We've hired, I think, 25 people during the last 3 to 4 months during Corona. And we are currently opening up another office in the Netherlands. We have the offices in London and Paris and growing them quite quickly. So it's honestly, it's all about growth at our company. And for me personally, it's all about internationalizing. It's all about scaling the business even further. But also on the other hand, taking care that the culture, that kind of the people, grow with you and have values and have attitudes that support the growth of the company. But also on the other hand, there needs to be kind of values in place, attitudes in place, and mindsets in place that a company that is now, let's say, 80 people big, it needs to have the same as if you have a company with 500 people or 1,000 people. Because oftentimes what happens when you grow a company further, when you have 500 people, 800 people, 1,000 people, the culture is lacking a bit, right? So it gets corporate, it gets not very personal, I would say. I mean, it's a corporate then. The decision levels are quite difficult, quite high hierarchies, and I'm hoping we can find a way to maintain, to keep the culture that we have now, the spirit, this entrepreneurial spirit, this mindset, even though we could reach a level where we have 500 or 1,000 people. This is something which is, for me personally, very important.
How do you see the the customer impacted by the technology? Again, if with your crystal ball, where do you see the technology going, and how will it enable the customer to give a better experience for their customers?
It's all about giving customers the options to what they prefer, right? So if a customer, for example, is on WhatsApp, or if a customer is on the website, he needs to find a quick way to answer a question. He needs to find a quick way to get a solution for his problem. No matter where he is, he can just send a message to the company. He gets an immediate reply. He doesn't have to wait in hotlines or in like waiting queues or something. This is something I think where companies should focus on. And I think this is one of the reasons why we exist also, right? We want to enable companies to do exactly that, to provide their customers with the best customer service, so that they have a high NPS, right? That they have high satisfactions, that they buy again from that company, that they get immediate responses, but also for the company, on the other hand, that the team can actually work fast and in a smarter way. So we've got advantages on both sides, on the end user side, on the customer side, but also on the company side. And this is what we are focusing on, and what we will be focusing on in the future.
Now, you brought up a great example there earlier of a customer. You mentioned O2, one of your big customers, obviously here in the UK as well. And actually, interestingly, last night I was looking at for a mobile phone for my son, 11-year-old son, and I went through, looking at those chatbots and what pops up. And I'll be interested. I don't know what the stats are apart from existing customers, but there must be an awful lot of loss for customers who are losing potential prospects who are navigating away from their site because they can't get the answers quickly. Do you have any insights into that, or any knowledge about how that's developing for not just those existing customers, but the sales pipeline that companies are losing?
I mean, there's definitely a bunch of studies out there that can really prove that. I mean, it's just a natural way of how it works, right? How business works. If I'm on the website and I can't access the things I want to access, right? For example, if I want to buy something, it takes me ages to buy it, and I don't know what to buy, but I kind of someone who can tell me what to buy, then this is kind of, I will churn, right? So I think that you don't need to have numbers to prove that this is a huge pain point for companies. And we spoke a lot about customer support, right? So reducing costs and increasing efficiency, but it is also about increasing revenues for companies, right? Decreasing churn, increasing conversion rates. So these are all kind of issues that we address, and I think we can definitely help companies to achieve that.
Good. So final couple of questions. What kind of people are you looking to connect with and interested in building relationships with?
Anyone who's interested in technology and software, but also in speaking about the world, right? And speaking about general things speaking about I don't know, sports, speaking about anything really. So I'm quite open to any conversation with anyone, because I always have the feeling that you can learn from anyone, and it can always be interesting conversations no matter with whom you speak, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So always kind of get in touch with me. Definitely.
Good. And look, if you were giving your, final question, if you were looking back to your early days at university, your very first days, I think probably, your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself looking back? If one piece of advice you'd tell yourself, what would you say to yourself now?
So me personally, I don't look like to the past, right? Never. So when decisions had been made, you can't change them, right? So typically I don't like answering these type of questions, because it's how it is, right? It's how life is, and I took the decision. The most important thing is that I took the decision, and I was just not like reluctant to take a decision. I think that's a very important point. I mean, one of the things that I already mentioned a bit was trust your gut feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can't separate your gut feeling from your head, and this is what you have to learn, right? Sometimes I also sometimes don't know, is it my head, is it my gut? But then you have to think about it, you have to sleep a night over it, and then at some point you just have a feeling, okay, I know what it is. Honestly, I have to take this decision because it's the gut feeling, and I'm honestly, even if I'm not right, I at least trusted my gut feelings. And so for me, this has personally been affected me for the last years, because I mean, you look back and see all the decisions which you've done, and you've done good decisions, you've done bad decisions. The best decisions, though, were when I trusted my gut. So I can definitely say to my 20-year-old invitation, I would say trust your gut feeling much more often.
Great. Look, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing so much fabulous insights into your business. If people want to connect with you, reach out to you, find out more about e-bot7, what's the best way they can do that?
Everywhere. LinkedIn, on the website, e-bot7.com, on Instagram, Xaver Lehmann. Honestly, anywhere. You can contact me whenever you.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere. I'll get down in Munich, and they'll track you down.
Exactly.
Well, look, great for joining. Thanks very much, and all the best with the business. Really love talking to you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.
We really hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you want to listen to more exclusive tips and life lessons from our guest, go to the resources page at vineresources.com.